MindStudio is a platform that allows anyone to build AI agents. There are other platforms out there as well that allow you to build AI agents. A show of hands, has anyone heard of a platform called N8N? Like this show of hands. Okay, a bunch of people, makes sense. 9 out of 10 times, if people compare us to some platform out there, they compare us to this platform N8N. The comparison is typically N8N is like Linux, MindStudio is like Windows or Mac OS. They kind of do the same thing. One just requires a lot more tech skills and more configuration work. So if you've tried it, welcome. You're going to love MindStudio even more because you've experienced the other side. And so I'm always excited to see a bunch of people raise their hands and say they've heard of or even better tried N8N. Another cool thing is that the skills we're going to be teaching you are not simply isolated for MindStudio. If you do want to go use N8N or a bunch of other things, you want to talk to models directly, all of these skills are transferable. Okay. And so we're going to teach you how to use MindStudio, but all of these skills are transferable on any other type of a thing you're going to do to build agents or engage with models. If you want to learn more about MindStudio, you can go to our About section. Companies venture back. We've got lots of investors. We've raised over $36 million. There's now over 400,000 of these AI agents that have been built and deployed with MindStudio across all kinds of big organizations. The British IRS is a customer of ours, His Majesty's Revenue and Customs. A company called Advanced Local, a giant newspaper publishing holding company, has over 300 of these agents, New York Times, etc. So again, it's a popular platform. You've come to the right place. And now let's go and learn to build AI agents. And so I'm going to hand you off to Luis. And again, we're all here to answer your questions in chat. You guys with me? You ready? Okay, go.
All right, thanks, Dimitri. Let me go ahead and share my screen really quick, and we will go ahead and get started. So as Dimitri mentioned, MindStudio is a platform, lets you build these really powerful AI agents. We have an interface that allows you to design them, build them, deploy them, monitor them over time. And there's a bunch of interesting companies and people that are currently using our product. You can go ahead and check that out on our website. So a lot of people will, like Dimitri mentioned, compare us to other automation platforms. The platform that we get compared to the most is a platform called N8N, which you've all mentioned that you've heard of before. And so people typically will talk about N8N, they'll talk about MindStudio, and they'll say N8N is kind of like Linux. So if you're wanting to like tinker around and go deep into the weeds on all these different settings, you'll go to N8N. If you MindStudio is more like Mac OS, like iOS. The interface is, simpler, easier to use, but you still have the depth in terms of capabilities. And MindStudio, one thing that's unique about MindStudio is that we connect to over 200 different types of AI models. You don't need your own API keys. We have this thing called the MindStudio Service Router that allows you to instantly connect to all of these models. You can use the models in multiple steps in your workflow, which I will demonstrate in just a second. But we have these connections to all the major model providers. As soon as a new model comes out, within 24 hours, we get it live on MindStudio, and it's ready for you to begin using. So this platform also integrates with everything, but what I want to draw your attention to is that there are different ways in which we can deploy our AI agents. So what you can build AI agents that are these AI powered web apps. They get a unique link. You can send that link to other people, share it with other people, and then your end user, whether that's yourself or someone else, can interact with the AI agent directly from the browser page. There's also agents that you can make that run autonomously. These are kind of, for more technical people, kind of like cron jobs, where it will execute a sequence of actions on a regular interval, meaning you don't necessarily interact directly with the agent. It just performs an automated sequence, for example, every day at 9 a.m., right? There's agents that can be triggered via our browser extension, and that is what I'm going to be demonstrating for you all today. This is, if you see on the right hand side, I have this this little MindStudio icon, this is my browser extension. And if I click on this little arrow, I have these AI agents. I have like a tool belt of AI agents. Now, normally I have many more. I remove some to keep it simple, but when I click on these buttons, it triggers an AI agent. And so I get to perform sort of AI magic as I'm browsing the web and have it do things with the content that is on that web page. We're going to be building several examples using this browser extension today. There are also agents that can be triggered via email, meaning your agent gets a unique email address. Whenever you email that email address, the agent starts running. It gets all of the content from that particular email thread, can process it with AI. And then for folks that are building their own applications, you can also trigger these agents via API, via webhook, if you're using other automation platforms. And you can also make these agents available as tools in other chat clients like Anthropic's Claude to be used for MCP tool use. So there's a bunch of other stuff that you can go through on the site here, but I did want to focus on those things. But there's, tons and tons of different features. I definitely recommend you check out our site. So let's stop talking about the website and let me show you what these agents look like in action. So here I am inside of a web page, and if I scroll down this web page, you can see this is like a really long report about the movie industry, right? And I have this agent here on the right-hand side, and this agent is called a TLDR agent. Too long, didn't read. What it does is it can take all of the content on this site and just extract the key learnings, the things that I need to know from this web page. And so if I click on this button, what happens is it pulls in all of the content from this web page, opens up the side panel, and begins running this agent inside of the side panel. And you can see that it begins generating this nicely formatted response that it doesn't just summarize things. It tells me the learnings from the page, meaning what are the things I need to take away after reading the content. So, and separates it all into nice sections. And this agent, because it's running in the browser extension, gets all the content from the page, works on other kinds of content as well. In fact, it will work on YouTube videos. So, for example, I get sent these podcasts all the time. Different kinds of podcasts have all sorts of different information. This is a podcast with Neil deGrasse Tyson, chatting with the winner of the 2025 Nobel Prize in Physics, right? And this podcast is almost an hour long. Some podcasts are 2 hours, some podcasts are 3 hours. Even if I listen to this podcast and all the podcasts that's sent to me at 2 times speed, I'm never going to have enough time to absorb all of the information that gets sent to me. But this agent, the same TLDR agent, is able to take the transcript from this YouTube video and also perform the same action by extracting all the key learnings and displaying it back to me. So it takes that YouTube transcript and gives me what I need to know from the content of this video. So here it is, separating it out into different sections, talking about different concepts, and so it's dynamic based on the content of the page. Even the output generally is dynamic. Sometimes this will be longer because the content that we're analyzing is much longer, and sometimes it'll be shorter because the web page is shorter, right? This will also work on PDFs that you open up online. So here is a practical example of this. This is a PDF version of Mice and Men. This is like a, what does it say? 107-page novel, relatively short novel, but it's still a lot of content. I can click that same button, that TLDR button here at the in my Chrome extension in my AI agent tool belt, and when I click on the button, it begins doing the same thing. It begins summarizing the content on the page, extracting everything that I need to know from the content that I am presented on screen. So this is super powerful, and it's also really easy to build. So while this is generating, we don't need to see this full generation. It does the exact same thing. Let me go ahead and show you how we would build something like this inside of MindStudio. I'm going to go ahead and open up the MindStudio page. And when you create an account, you'll see this button at the top says My Workspace. After you create an account, you are taken to this welcome screen, this Learn screen. And on this screen, there are a bunch of different resources. If this is your first time using MindStudio, you can check out our Getting Started page. There are a couple of things you need to do at the beginning when you're creating an account, including connecting to these model providers. And there'll be some buttons here at the top right. I've already done these things. I'm in my own account, but there's kind of a checklist here at the top right. You can connect to the models using either your own API connections, or the fastest and easiest way to connect to all 200 models is by using the MindStudio service router, which is also here on the right-hand side. So if I click on service router, you can see I have a balance. All of these models work off of a balance, and it's kind of like the electric company. You pay for what you use, right? So as you're creating these different agents, whatever the usage costs for that particular model cost you, that's what comes out of your balance. And periodically, you'll need to top up on your balance. You can see a full list of all of the different model providers and other services inside of this service router, and connect your own custom keys if that's something that you're interested in here. Let's go ahead and build our very first AI agent. So I'm going to go back into this screen. Oh, actually, I forgot. You can also access a bunch of learning materials. So in addition to this 2-hour workshop where we're going to be teaching you some of these core concepts right up front, you have access to a bunch of step-by-step build guides. This will take you to MindStudio University, which has a ton of different video courses. It has all of our documentation. You can see product updates, and you can check out all of our various programs, whether that's team training or partnerships or whatever you're looking to participate in. And then you can also check out our other workshops and upcoming live trainings here on the right-hand side. So you are currently in this AI Agents 101, but we also have an upcoming workshop next Friday where we're going to be teaching folks about generating images and video and different techniques to generate images and video consistently to create whatever kind of content you're looking to create. So you can find all of those events here on the right-hand side. Now, we also have these quick links, so I'm going to go ahead and click on Create New Agent. And when I click on this link, I am taken to what's called the MindStudio IDE. This is the space where you're going to be building your AI agents. And here we also get a welcome screen with those similar resources. But what I want to draw your attention to is there are these tabs at the top of the page. So we can close out of this welcome tab simply by clicking on this X button here in that tab. And that's going to close this out and show us the automations tab. This is our workflow. And you can see we're inside of this workflows folder, inside of the main.workflow. And this is the automations canvas. Automations are just the sequence steps, the automated steps that your AI agent will take each time it is run. And all workflows start in the exact same way. They all have a start block. They all have an end block. So this kicks off the workflow, initializes it. This ends the workflow. And then there's everything in between. And you can add all kinds of different blocks in between by clicking on this plus button. Now you'll see here, when I click on the plus button, I get this little mini contextual menu that gives me access to some of the most commonly used blocks. But then if I click on View All Blocks, you'll see we have a list of tons of different blocks that do all sorts of different things, whether that is generating things with AI, like generating text or images, videos, different kinds of assets. You can get data from various places. You can route your workflow in a bunch of different ways, meaning it doesn't always have to be linear. It can be branching. It can be looping. There's a bunch of different useful blocks here. You can connect to different social media platforms and fetch data from those different platforms. You have access to your entire Google suite. So if you have Google Docs or Google Sheets or calendar events, or you want to analyze your emails inside your Gmail inbox, you can do all of that stuff. There's different ways to output these agents, the outputs of the agents, to send those out either via email or SMS or Slack. bunch of different blocks that can do all sorts of different things. And if you have other automation workflows, we also slot really nicely into Zapier, N8N, and Make. It goes like peanut butter and jelly. You can use MindStudio inside of those automation platforms as well. Connect to a bunch of different services. And then we have over 800 different connectors. So you can connect directly to a bunch of different services. If there's a service that is not on here that you're interested in connecting to, you can simply click on Request a Connector. We get those connections live relatively quickly. So let's go ahead and we're going to be building, again, that TLDR agent that I just demonstrated. This agent is going to run in the browser extension. And the way that we determine what kind of agent we are building is inside of the start block. So I'm going to click on the start block, and then you'll see on the right-hand side there is this run mode setting. I can change this run mode setting to be all these different types of run modes. And you can see there's this browser extension run mode here. So this allows you to determine what kind of agent you're building. Remember how we were on this, whoops, let me scroll back up and show you this, this little table here. Where is it? Here we go, this little table. That start block allows you to determine which of these types of agents you're building, and in fact, there are more types of agents in that menu. So we're now inside this browser extension run mode, and when I changed it from on demand, which was originally at, and browser extension, you'll notice that this section up top was populated. There are these things called variables in MindStudio, and when we think back to variables, we think back to grade school algebra, right? Where we said x equals something and y equals something, and variables in MindStudio work in the exact same way. Only in this case, these things equal, the thing that they represent. So for example, URL represents the URL of the page we're currently on. You can get the raw HTML from the page, and that's going to pull all of the HTML from that page. The variable we're going to be using is called page content, and that's going to pull all of the main content from the page for us to use. What does that mean? That means it's just like if we were to go on this page here and we were to press Command A and copy this and then use that in various places in our workflow. It's taking all of this content and it's using that inside of our workflow. So now that we have access to all of that content, we can now process that content with AI. So I'm going to go ahead and add a block, and we're going to use this generate text block. This is probably the most common block that you will use inside of MindStudio, because what this block does is it makes a single call to an AI model. Now, when we refer to a call to an AI model, for those of you that maybe have only used ChatGPT or Claude or whatever, and you send a message in that chat interface, that is making a call to that AI model and getting a single response back, right? We're doing the same thing here. This prompt is just that message that you're sending to the AI model, right? And what's nice is because we have access to these variables, we can include that variable as part of our prompt. We can call variables very easily by using these double curly braces on our keyboard. So if I go curly brace, I now get this menu. And just for reference, that is the key above the enter key on your keyboard. So if you see there's these curly braces, there's square brackets and curly braces on your keyboard. You put two curly braces, you get access to all of the variables from this particular workflow. So I can use those double curly braces, select page content, and just like that, I'm bringing in all of the content from whatever web page I'm browsing. Next, we will include the instruction. Now, a general framework for when you're writing prompts I like to use is there are kind of three parts to a prompt. There's a bunch of other extras, but these are kind of the main parts of a prompt. There's the context. This is all of the contextual information that the AI model is going to need to use in order to execute its task. And then there is the task, which is the instructions, what you want the AI model to do at this step in the workflow. And then lastly, this is optional, but there is the response formatting. So how you would like that response to look um, when it generates the response for you. So we've just included the context by including this page content. Now we can go ahead and include the task, and this is going to be our instructions. So I'm going to say extract all key learnings, right? Your prompts can be as simple or as complex as you'd like to make them. For the purposes of this demo, I'm going to keep this super simple, and I'm just going to say extract all key learnings, right? And for our response formatting, I don't really care what that looks like at this point. So I'm going to, I'm going to ignore that part of my framework for now. So this is all we need: page content and some instructions. And just like that, we have finished building our AI agent, right? All we need to do is finalize it, meaning we have to give it a name. And in order to give it a name, we can click on this top folder. That's going to open up a settings page, and there are a bunch of different settings. We're not going to cover all of these on this workshop, but this metadata setting is important. This is where we write our name. So I'm gonna call this demo TLDR, right? You can give it a short description if you'd like. You can give it an icon. If you like, to choose your visual for your icon, what you're going to see in this right-hand side. You can go ahead and pick an icon. I'm going to choose, you know, notes or, something like that. And there we go. We have this nice notes icon. Let me go ahead and download that. Perfect. It downloaded. Now in my project, I can simply upload that image. And now we have our icon. That's what's going to appear in our tool belt, our side panel there. Okay, so we gave it a name and an icon. If you don't include anything else, we have tools that will generate this stuff for you. When we're ready to publish, we simply click on this publish button. And when this is published, it should take just a second, we'll be able to open up this AI agent. And you'll see that when we open this up, you'll see it's designed for the extension, meaning it's not really meant to be used like this where we open up a unique link. It's meant to be used in that little side panel, in that tool belt. So if you don't have the Chrome extension, you can easily add it to Chrome by clicking on this button. But the other important thing is that we want to make sure we pin it in our tool belt. Right now, I only have these two. So if I go to my agent and I click on these three dots at the top right, and then I click on pin in extension, now when I go back, you'll see it's now 3. I have that now pinned in my extension. It is now available and ready for me to use. So let me go ahead. I will refresh the page, and it's now published. We can then click on our extension, and I noticed I have a typo. I called it LTDR. Totally fine. We can adjust that, make as many edits along the way. I'm going to go ahead and click on that, and you can see here it is now going through and generating our output here on the right hand side. And again, this is kind of small to see, but there are little things that you can do inside of your prompt to optimize the output. So for example, at the very top here, it's a little hard to see, but maybe if I refresh this and I can show the previous runs, we can see the output. You see at the top, it says, here are the key learnings extracted from the provided text, right? That's something that I don't really need, right? Maybe I don't want this additional commentary. I just want the key learnings. And so I can go in my prompt. We can edit this agent as many times as we'd like. There's no limits to how often you can edit this. And I can say, reply only with the key learnings in an outline format and nothing else, right? So we're adding, this is kind of that third part of that framework, the contextual information, the task, and the response format, right? So now this is all we need to do when we make changes is we just publish those changes, right? It might take a second or two. And once this is published, it will become ready to use. So the agent is now published. Now we can go back, close the side panel, we can click on this agent again, and now what it's going to do is give us a different format, right? So it gave us the outline, you know, again, it's kind of hard to see. It's not using, it's outputting all in plain text. We can continue modifying this as we go to get the proper formatting that we like, right? So, include headers where necessary, uh, include headers for different sections, etc., right? But the point is, we now have in a couple of minutes this new agent in our tool belt. So we can click on it, AI magic happens, gives us something on that page. And this pattern, this 3 block pattern of let's have the browser extension run mode, let's bring in the content from that page and let's do something with that content now unlocks hundreds and hundreds of different use cases for you. So as you're browsing the web and you're thinking, "Oh, I really wish I could, you know, do this really quickly on this particular page." You now can, right? Let's build using the same pattern for a completely different example, right? Let's say I wanted to build a stock analyzer, and I went to Yahoo Finance, and I wanted to find, a random stock. Here's the trending tickers. Let's go. Here's a Reddit ticker, right? This is Reddit stock here. And let's say I want to build an agent that tells me whether or not I should buy this stock or not, and give me an analysis of this stock. Well, I can very quickly do that. I'm going to go back and I will create a new agent by clicking on Create New Agent. And from here, I will do the same thing. We use the start block, we change it to browser extension. That gives us access to all of the content on the page. I click on Generate Text. I use that page content variable, and then I give it a task. So I can say, perform a fundamental analysis on the stock above. And here's another technique you can use. There's this special technique called tagging, which basically can label parts of your prompt so that you can reference it later. We do that by including these angled brackets. So I can label this as a stock, and I need to make sure I have another label that closes it out using this slash here. But now I've labeled this as a stock, right? And I can reference it inside of my prompt here. I know it kind of looks like code, but it's really not. It's just a label, right? So we have a label and we have end of the label here, and everything inside of that label is going to be referenced later down the line here. Perform a fundamental analysis on the stock. You can say, in particular, we are looking to find out whether it's a good time to buy it or not. Right? And by the way, one thing we haven't talked about is we have access to all of these different AI models. So right now, I am using Gemini 2.5 Flash, right? But if I click on this, I get the menu with all of the different models. So if I wanted to change this from 2.5 Flash to Claude Sonnet 4.5, I can very easily do that. And now I'm using Claude Sonnet 4.5. You can also find this in the model settings tab, and this is kind of determining what your default model is. So meaning when you add a new generate text block, what are the settings that are going to be there by default? And there's a couple of different settings when it comes to these LLMs. One is the temperature. This controls the amount of randomness in the model's response. So you'll see when the temperature is set all the way to the max, this becomes unstable. And so models set at very high temperatures will result in garbled text or gibberish. So it might make no sense when it generates the output, versus if it's set all the way to 0 or 0.1, what that means is given the exact same input, it will generate nearly the exact same output. Now, Why am I telling you this? The reality is that most of the time you're not going to need to fiddle with this setting. You will be the sweet spot is between zero point 0.7 and 1, just slightly under the halfway point. I like keeping it at zero point 0.7. I set it, I forget it. That's all I need to do. The other setting is this max response size, and this will determine the maximum amount of tokens that will be generated from that AI model. So if this can go up to, looks like 65,000 tokens, what we people often get confused, tokens versus words. What does all this mean? A token is equivalent to roughly three-fourths the amount of words. So for example, if I have 100 tokens, that equates to 75 words, roughly, right? It's a rough estimate. We're going to turn this up to, 20K. And just because it's at 20K does not mean it's going to generate 20K tokens. It's just like the theoretical maximum. So now we've gotten our automation all done. Let's go ahead and name this, and I'm going to call this my demo stock analyzer, right? There's our demo stock analyzer. Let's go ahead and find an icon. Instead of notes, maybe I have a money icon because we're trying to make some money moves. And here's my money icon. Let me go ahead and download that. And back inside of my project, I will upload my money icon. We are all set. Let's go ahead and publish our demo stock analyzer. And again, like I'm building these use cases out as I think of them, right? Like it's really easy just using this very simple pattern to create these sorts of agents. So I open up the agent, I pin it in my extension by clicking on these three dots and clicking pin in extension. Now going back to this, this ticker analysis, I now have my agent ready. I can then click on it. It's going to analyze this stock for me. So let's see what is generated. Reddit fundamental analysis. It gives me the executive summary. The valuation is a major concern. Here's why it's severely stretched. Financial performance is strong. It's a pretty good analysis of this particular stock. And ultimately, at the end, it will provide, recommendations as to whether or not um, it's a good stock to buy in this very moment or not. So analysis sentiment, mostly overweight / buy. There's a bunch of stuff in here. You get this full analysis of this stock, and you can do this every day, right? You can do this for multiple stocks. You can run this on several different pages all at the same time if you want to, right? You don't have to wait for this to finish generating before you can run this AI agent again. So super, super powerful. The other thing that I want to you know let you guys know is I'm not a financial analyst, right? I'm someone who is uh, I'm a product person, right? Like there are people, and you as a professional in your particular industry are going to have the knowledge needed in order to write the correct type of prompt. Meaning, if I was someone who analyzed stocks all day, I could include much more information and I would be better suited to write this prompt than, me, a product person at a tech company, right? Um, what I mean to say is that as you go through browsing the web, you're going to identify places that can optimize what you're doing as you're browsing the web, whether it's extracting information on the page, whether it's analyzing information on the page, whether it's generating new content, right? You are uniquely suited to solve your own problem, right? And all of that is just a matter of providing the AI with the context it needs and the detailed instructions to complete that task. Similar to what you would write for a human who was going to do that work, right? The more details you can include, the better your outputs are going to be. Okay, these are So I've kind of hammered home you can build this stuff relatively quickly. What I would like to show you, and um, the thing to know is this is just the very beginning of your AI agent building journey. Meaning, I've shown you this pattern. You now have hundreds of use cases unlocked. I want to show you if you decide to spend more time building agents, what is possible, because you can do much more than simply generating this like output on in a side panel, right? Excellent company trading at a dangerous price. Interesting. Okay. Anyway, the if we go back and you want to explore all of the different agents that are available, we have a library of hundreds of agents that are ready to use. You simply go to this ready to use section, and there are a bunch of different agents that are all readily available for you to use right away. And if you're interested in learning how an AI agent works, you can simply click on the agent itself, like this TLDR that I just built, and you can click on make a copy. You can see what that agent looks like and how it works under the hood, step by step, every single detail. There's no gatekeeping, right? All these agents are available for you to use. Make a copy. You can modify them. You can make as many copies as you want. So if you go on the site, you find something, you try it out, you mess it up, don't worry, you can make another copy and try again, right? There's no penalties, there's no cost to making copies, right? What I want to show you though is there's this is the other end of the spectrum. I showed you the beginning. These are the simple agents. Let me show you what happens when you start to take advantage of all of the different features available on MindStudio. This is an agent called the Deep Research Agent, and you can see just on the right hand side that the workflow has many more steps than just that one workflow, because these agents can generate much more than just a text output. In fact, if we go and we look at, for example, this output, this is a full research report about Reddit marketing mastery, right? And this research report, uh, keep in mind, everything in this report was 100% generated by AI, right? This image at the top, this featured image was generated by AI. The overview, all of the takeaways, all of the interfaces were all generated by AI. All of the images were either pulled from the internet, but or generated by AI. That there are charts in here, key points, the entire page. I'm beating a dead horse. It's all generated by AI, right? And you can get these really high quality outputs for dynamic pages like this that are able to bring in all of this information, summarize it, compile it into a report. And the other thing is that this agent is not making up this information. You know, you can see here that this AI agent goes out, does a bunch of research for you, pulls quotes from all of these sources in order to generate its report, right? And you can see not the source, you can see the quote it pulled, you can see the website, you can actually go to the website and open it up. And there are hundreds of different sources it used in order to build out this research report. So it's really, really impressive stuff that you can get built. You can make these really high quality outputs. And by the way, you can also easily share these outputs with other people. So you can have it generate reports for you, download them as PDFs, or simply share the link, this public asset here with somebody else. You can now view the report, read it. And by the way, we can also use our tool belt of agents to go through and extract all the key learnings from this report as well. Let's take a look, and I'm going to make a copy of this agent here. And I'm going to show you step by step how an agent like this works. Now, first off the bat, you can see that there are a bunch of other things in that this agent uses in addition to that workflow that we saw. On the left-hand side, there is this thing called the Explorer, and the Explorer simply displays all of the different resources used in building your AI agent. There are workflows, which we just saw. Those are those automated actions. there are these things called user inputs, and these user inputs are Google Forms style form fields. You can see a preview of what those look like on the right-hand side. There are a bunch of different types of inputs, and they will look like this when they're presented to the user. There are custom functions, meaning if you are looking to vibe code custom functionality in your AI agents, you can do that. We support JavaScript, we support Python. So all of these are custom JavaScript or Python functions that extend the capabilities of MindStudio and extend the capabilities of this AI agent in particular. And then there are these data sources, which are, primarily most people are not going to use this, but they are, files that can get vectorized and queried in a vector database. The way that this agent works, let me close out of these, is there are multiple workflows that all do very different and specific things, but they all work together. If we go into this main.flow, this is kind of our orchestration flow, right? So the way this agent works, we start with the entry, and the entry takes in that user input. What do you want me to research? Should I create a podcast? Which, this particular output didn't have a podcast, but there are some versions of this that can actually generate a fully AI podcast with two different voices, all talking about the content from the research report. So it says, what should I research about? And then this has a jump block that just jumps directly into this main.flow workflow. So I'm going to go ahead and just close out these side panels so that we have a bit more room to see what's happening. Once this workflow is initialized, we can utilize these things called logic blocks. And these logic blocks, they're kind of these allow you to create these branching pathways. There's kind of two ways to do that, either with human decision or AI decision. There's another type called a menu block, which asks, do you want this or this? And the human chooses, and then it routes the workflow in a particular way. This logic block allows AI to make that decision. And so based on whether or not certain conditions are met, it will route the workflow in different ways. So in this case, the two conditions are, did the user request gibberish? Is the user trying to waste our time and waste resources and trying to get us to research something that's nonsensical? If the answer is yes, send them back. Ask them to write something that makes sense. It's an invalid request. Explain to the user why their request is invalid. But if indeed it is valid, we can continue on. And we take that initial request and we enrich it in several different ways. We use an AI model to take that initial request, expand on it, and turn it into a prompt that could be sent to a researcher. So here's an enhanced prompt based off of what the human typed in, right? At that point, we take that output and we feed it into the next output where it builds it analyzes the request and builds an entire research plan. And then at that point, we have this block called a user context block. And this user context block allows the AI to come up with follow-up questions. So for example, if I said, I want to research deep space travel, right? It might say, it might go to this user context block and the AI will come up with questions like, oh, that's interesting. You want to learn about deep space travel. What particular part of space travel are you interested in? Are you interested in places that are feasible for space travel? Are you interested in survivability in deep space? Are you interested in flight mechanics? Like, why are you interested in space travel? Are you trying to travel to space? These are all pieces of information that would be valuable to know in order to generate the right type of report for your particular interest, right? So it goes and gathers all of this extra contextual information. And at that point, it begins doing this research. And these kind of green groupings, like all these groupings, this is just a note. We have the ability to add notes so that you can kind of, visually mark different sections of your workflow when your workflow becomes a little more complex. And this does all the research. So it creates a broad research plan where it takes all of the notes and the additional contextual information, and it generates a bunch of Google search queries. And then it goes and uses this block here called a run workflow block, where it takes all of those search queries and actually Google performs several different Google searches for each of those queries. Those Google searches bring back a bunch of links. Those links are then all scraped and analyzed, and we compile all of that information together into like one giant like a bibliography of all these different places. We flatten all of them, make them all easier to parse through, and then it creates another research plan, begins doing that same thing based off of that additional research plan, organizes it, flattens it all out, and then after it gets all of this researched information, all of this stuff where it goes through and finds all of the sources and pulls all the quotes, it then begins to compile a report together, right? It takes all the plan, and you can see these prompts are like relative, very detailed, right? Writing the report, the style, the formatting rules, the attribution, all of these details are included in that prompt, and it compiles it, it validates it. This is a block that simply, sets the run title. And then at this point, you this runs all four of these blocks in parallel, meaning you can group blocks together and run them in parallel, so that you're not wasting it. It makes your workflow more efficient, meaning if these can all be run independently, it does that before moving on to the next step. And so if you wanted it to generate a podcast, it goes through, generates the podcast, sources all of the images for the research report, can create all of the visualizations and the cover image, and it gets all this information, formats it, puts all the data together, and then generates this final asset using this generate asset block. And this generate asset block allows you to do a bunch of stuff, right? I'll show you kind of some other neat tools in just a second. In this case, the person who made this agent actually coded the template themselves, but you can also vibe code these templates, right? So given some data, I want it to look this way. And I'll show you what that looks like in just a second. Then it displays all of that back to us. And what we get at the end of the day is this really nicely formatted asset. So why am I taking you here? Because I want you to know that by the end of this, you have access to create hundreds of different use cases. But there are still thousands of other use cases that you can create just by spending a little more time in this interface, right? You have the ability to do all sorts of different things, and this is what you're capable of creating. And the other thing is, you actually don't need to make a deep research agent by yourself. It's already available, right? Again, just to reiterate, you can take any of these agents, make a copy, go in, try to modify the prompt in some way, for your particular use case. If you mess up, don't worry, make another copy, try again, right? Um, so coming back to practical build guides, right? Let's take our TLDR agent, that one block pattern, and take it in a different direction, right? I'm going to go ahead and create another new agent. And in this case, what I want to do is I want to take a content on a web page, and I want to generate a blog post, right? I can do that simply by adding a couple of extra steps. Or maybe I want to generate a social media post. I can do that again just by changing this from on-demand to browser extension. We can generate text. We can now input the page content. And again, I like to include these labels, these XML tags, and I'm just going to call this content, just so that it's separate from the rest of my prompt. And then I'm going to say analyze content and generate a social media post uh, for LinkedIn. You can say reply with the post text and nothing else. And so I may want to take this output and use it later on in my workflow, right? And I can do that by changing this setting, this output behavior. You see, right now it's set to display to user. But if I change that to save to variable, we actually have the ability to create our own variables, right? Just like these variables here that represent, URL equals something, metadata equals something. We're saying we're giving ours a name, right? And so this is going to be the post, right? And post equals the response from this particular AI model, right? Then what I can do is I can display that post to see if I actually want to post it, right? So I'm going to call using those double curly braces my post. So we're actually using the output of one block and feeding it into the next block. Okay. And then only if I continue, maybe I want to post it directly to LinkedIn. So I can look up LinkedIn, and here we have create LinkedIn post. And now I can connect my account. I simply sign into LinkedIn. I'm already signed in here. And I can feed the output of this generate text block, the post, into the message content here. So there we go. Now it's going to post whatever is generated, but only if I continue. So let's go ahead and name our agent. We added a couple extra steps, right? Just by adding a couple extra blocks, now we take content on a page, we generate a LinkedIn post for it, and we can post it directly to LinkedIn based on our human in the loop approvals, right? Um, and by the way, there's a better way to do this, but I don't want to confuse you at this point. There's another block that called a checkpoint block that actually lets you revise the text later on, but it takes a little more to set up. Um, so let's go ahead and we now have our demo LinkedIn post generator. And maybe we look for an icon, and our icon is a LinkedIn icon. Here we go. Perfect. Just what we needed. And let's go ahead and give it our LinkedIn icon. And now we can publish it. And once this is published, it's designed for the extension. I can click on those three dots. I click on pin in extension. So now it's in my tool belt of AI agents where I get all these magic buttons. And now, let's say I want to take this YouTube video. Now I want to create a LinkedIn post based off of this YouTube video. Well, now I can. There's the LinkedIn post generator. We'll click on it. And what it's going to do is it's going to display the LinkedIn post back to us. Fresh off the 2025 Nobel Prize win, right? And if we click on the next button, it's going to post to my LinkedIn page. So I'm just going to demonstrate this. We'll go to my LinkedIn page, click on my profile, and here we have my post activity. Let me go ahead and I will go ahead and post this to LinkedIn. Oh, let's try this one more time. There we go. Make a LinkedIn post. We'll choose my account. Oh, I may need to re-sign into LinkedIn. So let me go ahead and do that. I'll go ahead and connect a new account. I'll sign into LinkedIn really quick. Sorry about that. It looks like I wasn't signed in. Well, you get the idea. It would post to my LinkedIn. It'd be cool to demo this for everyone. Hold on, give me 1 second. Okay, I'm now connected to LinkedIn. Awesome. Oh, that's right. It didn't connect. So fun news, I recently changed my name officially because I recently got married. So that's why my connection had expired. Um, so, okay, let's go ahead and try this one more time. I should now be connected to LinkedIn. So we'll run this one more time. We've got our LinkedIn post generator. It's generating our text. It's going to display that back to us. Just watched the episode of Star Talk. Awesome. Click the next button. Completed successfully and posted to my LinkedIn page. So now, if I refresh this and scroll down to my post activity, here we go. Here's that post right here. Just watched fascinating Star Talk episode with Neil deGrasse Tyson and comedian Chuck Nice featuring the 2025 Nobel Prize winner. Now, I'm going to go ahead and delete this post because I didn't modify it in any way. I didn't put any style settings on it. But it's really easy to do that too, right? Let's say we wanted to add a couple of Google Forms style form fields at the beginning of this thing. Now I can create this user input block. And this user input block lets me generate these user inputs. I click on the plus button here. I click on create new, and I can begin to create my inputs. There are a bunch of different types again: long text, short text, multiple choice. You can even have, your end users upload files or images and things like that. And so I'm just going to put in text choice, and I'm going to put in, purpose, and we'll say the label. This is the response of this is going to be saved to a variable called purpose, and then we'll have the label text say something like, "What is the main purpose of this post?" We can add our different options underneath, so I can say maybe to educate, maybe to promote, maybe to just for fun, etc. Right? So now we have our purpose. We can add another input in this user input block. Again, we click on the plus button, we click on create new, and maybe we want the style. And we can say, what is the style of your post? Right? And we'll leave this open-ended here with a long text. So now if we were to publish this, make sure that both of these are in there. If we were to publish this, okay, everything's been saved, and we were to run this again in my tool belt, well, now we can actually start to include this additional information in our post here. One thing I forgot to do is we need to actually include these in our prompt here. So I can say, purpose, um, purpose of post, and then I can include the purpose, and I can say style of post, and I can include the style. So now it's included in our actual prompt because otherwise it wasn't going to get that contextual information. And now when I run this again here, let's go ahead and open that back up. You can see that we got those form fields. What's the main purpose of this post? Just for fun. And for the style of the post, make it sound excited. Talk about all of the key learnings from the content. It's going to go ahead and generate the post for us. Awesome. Favorite takeaways. This is a much better formatted post, right? It gave me a bunch of key takeaways. I can then click the next button if I'm happy with that output, and it will post directly to my LinkedIn. So just by adding a couple of extra blocks that are super simple, again, we added some form fields. We added something that's kind of like a checkpoint for us. And then there's the block that actually posts to LinkedIn. And just by going in, searching for, if we go to YouTube, we type in you, we can search for whatever we want, right? We can scroll down and explore all of these different blocks. It's really easy to kind of mix and match based off of whatever you are trying to create, right? Uh, with that, I'm going to pause for a second and see if there are any questions because we can dive into other specific features, um, but just want to make sure this is all making sense. Does anyone have any questions? Um, Nasli, did I pronounce that correctly?
Yes. Hi, hello everybody. I just wanted to know, so I have a lot of recordings on my Otter, and I just wanted to know how would I be able to create like a pod, I think you showed us like a podcast report of like pe different people having like two different conversations of two people having a
Yeah.
conversation and creating like a podcast. So I just had like an interview and I recorded it on Otter. So can I do that with Mind Studio?
Yeah, so check this out. There's this agent called Generate Podcast, and
Got
this
it.
will take text content, transform articles, documents, and written content into a podcast style audio episode. So this isn't going to necessarily edit your video for you, right? But what it's going to do is it's going to generate the voices with AI and based off of whatever you're talking about inside of your calls, right? So if that's something that you're interested in doing, you can use this agent, or you can also make a copy and then try to modify this agent for your specific needs. So, for example, you might want it to analyze your yeah, and really thinking about like what are the steps in order to take this thing and generate a podcast? What would I have to do manually that I could automate with AI? So
Right.
if I was to generate a podcast, I might need to watch through the podcast and determine which lines I wanted to keep in or cut out of the video recording. I may want to, take that full transcript and edit it in different ways. And so I could take the transcript of that podcast, upload it to an AI agent, and then have the AI create a script based off of the podcast with time codes that would make it easy for me to edit down.
Got it. So you guys, so I won't be able to um create like a report. I believe, I mean, sorry, I was like trying to deal with my dog and listen to you at the same time. But I believe that you said that you can make a report out of a podcast, and I think it was Reddit. I think the one you was that, did I hear
Yeah, so
correctly?
what I demoed was this deep research agent. So you type in what you want to research, and it will go out into the internet, scrape a bunch of pages on the internet, do a bunch of different Google searches, gather
Got
additional
it.
information for you, generate a podcast around that research report, and then create this like really awesome like final asset. But yeah, you
Okay.
have access to this agent right now. You can make a copy of it. You can click on the run button and start using it right away. Um, it's available for you to check out.
Thank you so
Sweet,
much.
thank you. Yeah, thank you. Gabriel?
This is amazing. I'm curious what are the different ways to get information into MindStudio? Like, for example, I do a lot of work with Google Ads or Meta Ads, and I'm often trying to analyze that data. Do I have to, download a CSV and upload it to MindStudio every time, or can I guess I could just plug in directly with the API, or even to the like previous person's question around Otter. Um, like, could you just show an example of like how we would connect to the APIs of a tool to automatically receive the information?
Yeah. So let
Thank you.
me go into created by me. I'll make a new agent. So there's a couple of ways. One is, let's say you have a use case you want to connect to Google Ads. The block is not here. Request the connector. Make sure that ends up on our list so that we don't have to connect to it manually in the future, right? We might add a Google Ads connection if there's an API that allows us to tap into your Google Ads account. And at that point, you simply would add, your own API key and then be able to pull data from ads. And like you said, yeah, you can definitely go the route of let me download a CSV, let me add a user input, and um, allow for that file to be uploaded as a CSV. And here's my, you know, Google Google Ads variable for this particular run, right? That might be the easiest and most straightforward way to do it. Um, the other thing you can do is we have this block called an HTTP request block. And from here, you simply enter the information required for you to connect directly to whatever endpoint allows you to pull that data from, whether that's Google Ads or Otter, whatever has an API, you can use this block to run that HTTP request. And then additionally, let's say you wanted to, instead of having it abstracted like this, you simply wanted to run an HTTP request. You can actually, just generate the function here that runs the HTTP request, saves the output as a variable for you, and now you have that available in your own workflow. You've kind of just added that custom functionality in your workflow. So those are kind of your different options. What this looks like in practice, let me see if I can find an agent. So there's an older version of this, I believe it's this ICP. So I created an agent, by the way, that can basically go on Google Sheet or go on LinkedIn people search and extract all of the people and add that to like a spreadsheet for me, like my CRM. And I converted it to also extract and send to a HubSpot CRM. And the way that this works is, oops, what happened here? Let me go back. 1 second. Sorry about that. Got signed out for some reason. Let me go ahead and we'll edit this agent. Oh, why is it not letting me edit this? Okay, we will make a copy. We'll make a copy of the agent. And the way this agent works is we are using that same browser extension. We have it take all of the people mentioned and return, this like structured data, which is something that trips a lot of people up, but actually unlocks like a ton of new, better capabilities when you can organize this data in a way that makes it very readable. And then we have the sub workflow that essentially gets the contact information and uses these blocks that connect to, hunter.io and HubSpot. And previously, before we started building this particular agent, that's actually not a good example because I'm not running the HTTP request, so it might be in this one. The thing is, when we start building these demo agents that run these HTTP requests, we end up turning them into blocks anyway. And so they just end up becoming blocks in MindStudio. This one has this people search here that runs an HTTP request to Apollo AI, but this was also turned into a block. Sorry about that. I was looking for a good example because I know I built these using the HTTP request block, but we end up just turning it into functionality on the platform. So I don't have an example for you off the bat, but if you know how to, use HTTP requests, it works in the exact same way. You just fill in the information that you need for the payload for that endpoint.
Kind of reminds me of Clay, similar type of use case with the HTTP request, but just all that does is fill out spreadsheets. This has unlimited possibilities. One other question I have is around database. You were talking about vectorized databases, and
Mm-hmm.
does it make sense to just host all of the data directly in MindStudio, is it built for that, or would you recommend connecting to a data lake or
Hmm.
like AWS data lake or something? And how would you
Yeah,
recommend?
good good question. So kind of taking a step back in order to answer that question. There's a bunch of different ways in which you can get data to bring in as context for your AI agents. One of those ways is simply by, like we saw, using a user input block and uploading a file directly. Another way is to um, copy and paste contextual information into this thing called a system prompt, which kind of acts as it's a prompt that it applies to the entire workflow. So, for example, if you have things like style guides or company information, that this would be a good place to include those types of things here. General role for the agent. Um, the other way is obviously like you can connect to your Google Drive and bring in contextual information from as many docs or sheets or email messages as you'd like for your workflow. And then, yeah, if you have like big data that you want to bring in, what I would recommend is using this query SQL database block where you would plug into your own database and just pull the information that you need in order to answer that question, like whatever you're looking to do with your agent. The way that data sources work is the files essentially become uploaded, embedded, vectorized. They're chunked in, and so this is something that's kind of a relic feature. And the reason I say that is it's my opinion that it's better to bring in as much context as possible. And when you query a vector database, what's returned is just a couple of chunks of text. And so for that reason, you might not be getting actually be giving the AI model the full picture. And you want to include as much of that contextual information as possible. The other thing is when this technique is called RAG, Retrieval Augmented Generation, and this is something that was a buzzword like a year and a half ago. The reason that was a buzzword is because these models, there's this thing called a context window, and that essentially determines the amount of information that you're able to input into a single call to an AI model. And previously, if we're thinking like a year and a half ago when RAG workflows were like all the rage, these context windows were like 16,000 tokens, meaning they were so small that you had to break the text up into multiple chunks. But nowadays, with these models like 2.5 Pro, 4.1 Mini, the 4.1, these are all context windows of like a million tokens. Um, I forgot where I saw this, but the comparison I saw was upload every Lord of the Rings novel all together, and it will still fit in a 1 million token context window, just as a reference. So it can handle quite a lot of data. And so what I would recommend is that if you have a database, you simply I kind of gave you the overview of all the different possibilities. I would either query the SQL database, and you need to, have a SQL query here. This is not a natural language query in order to pull that information, or simply, upload the files, you need either to a Google Docs or spreadsheets and use those Google Sheets blocks to bring them in at runtime when you actually run the agent. Does that make sense?
That
Hopefully
it makes perfect sense. That is the most comprehensive answer that I've had to that question. Thank you.
yeah, no problem. I'm glad I could help. Any other questions? Otherwise, I'm gonna dive into some other features that I think are cool, and I think you'll think they're cool. Josh or Lewis, any questions in the chat that we weren't able to answer, or are we pretty much covered?
Yeah, I think one overarching question that people have been asking is about sharing agents and how that works.
Oh,
So it might be a good idea to just quickly go over that.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that's a good point. We didn't get to cover that. So let's say you make an agent. There's a bunch of different ways to share agents. The first is if we're making an agent that runs on demand, meaning it is simply a link that we a link to the agent where the person actually interfaces it just by opening up the link to the agent. What we can do is if we go in this top menu, and actually um, I'll simply make a very quick agent here that is a very basic blog post generator where I will create a user input. I'll have a variable called topic, and that variable is going to say, what should we write about? And then I will make a generate text block that says, write a blog post about, uh, and we'll include, topic at the top. Here we go. Make sure that we include those labels, those tags. And we're going to say, write a blog post about topic, right? So this is an agent that we actually interact with just from opening up the page. So once this is published, when we open this one up, we actually get those interfaces here on this page here. So if I say I want to write about, space travel, you'll find that I have like 3 example things to write about. It's like space travel, dogs, and race cars, right? Those are the 3 things I always end up writing about. But now we have this blog post generator. We can now share it with people by going into our settings here, and you'll see that there's this whole sharing section. There's different ways to share your agents. One is you can make your agent public by clicking on this public button. And that's going to allow anyone with the link to use this agent, even people outside of my organization. Now, when you share this agent, you need to determine who's going to pay for the usage of the agent. And in many cases, uh, if you share this agent, you can have it set to the requester, meaning the person that's using the agent needs to pay for it no matter what. You can have it set to you take the responsibility of the agent. And then there's this thing called anonymous access, which basically means in most cases, when somebody opens up an AI agent, and they will need a MindStudio account in order to use that agent, especially if you want them to pay for the usage costs. But if you have anonymous access enabled, this means that anybody can actually take that agent that we made, and we simply just copy this link and share it, right? So if I were to paste this in our chat, everybody could open up this agent and use it because I have anonymous access open, and it doesn't matter if you have a MindStudio account or not. When it's disabled, you need a MindStudio account. So that's one way to share it. Let's say but that's for if we want to use the agent. Let's say we want to just share the agent as like a template, right? We're giving access to like the agent build. We have this feature called remixing, and remixing allows anyone to make a copy of your agent. So just like how we had the remixing link on, whoops, sorry, let me just go back to MindStudio. Just like we had in our ready to use agents, this button that says make a copy, that essentially takes you to what's called the remix link. And so if I have remixing enabled, I can quickly copy this link and share that link with other people so that they can get a unique instance of that build. It's no longer you have your version, they will have their version, and they'll be able to make changes to it without affecting your version, right? So we get this page, we can click on make a copy, and it will create that version in our own workspace. And then the other way that we see people sharing these agents is simply by embedding an agent on a website, right? And so you can very quickly build out your own website. You can paywall it. We don't process payments or anything. We can set all that up on your own website. And if you enable guest access, you can actually just copy and paste this embed link and put it on your website. And we have a more rigid version of this called signed URL embedding, which basically will tie it back to a user ID on your website. But this is a little more intense. It's easier to just copy the embed link here. This allows you to kind of have persistent sessions, but I don't want to confuse you with this stuff. Basically, you have this embed link and you can share it on your website. Um, this doesn't go in the header. It's going to go inside of an iframe. So see how this says iframe? You simply add it as an element to your page, and then you can display it. So I'll show you what that looks like. I'm inside of Webflow. We go to my demos and tests. Here I have a embedding demo. And if I'm on my Webflow site, here's my code embed. This looks like it's a game here. But if I go in and I double click on this, I can actually go in and change the embed here. So instead of it being this game, I will copy and paste this in, and it is now my blog post generator, right? And so I simply will publish this to my site, and it's as easy as that. That's how that would work. So that's in a nutshell how you would go about sharing these agents. Okay, so there's a bunch of other cool stuff I want to show you, and we have about 30 minutes left. There are, in addition to generating text, for example, I want to quickly show you that it's really easy to also generate things like images and video, right? So you have these blocks, generate image, we can generate images for all kinds of things. In fact, let me just make an image generator. I will go and click on new agent. I'll add generate image. From here, I can just add my image prompt directly into the AI agent and have it generate whatever I want. I can choose the model, the AI image model, and I can say something, I can say whatever I want. A tennis match, right? And one thing that's really cool is you can choose to publish this agent, but you can also change this to become a workbench. So you change this to workbench, and that essentially means like I'm just using it inside of the canvas here. I'm not actually publishing like an app. I just want it to run through a workflow here and generate something for me. So I can click on run, and now you see this thing opens up, and we get insight into this thing called the debugger. This isn't unique to the workbench, but you can see what was generated. We now have the ability to view this image. There's a tennis match. It doesn't quite know how to place the net and stuff. You can see he's like way out of bounds, but it's a cool image, right? We can also remix images depending on the model that we use, right? So if you have, let's say I want to like remix my own image, I can add a new input. I can call this, my pick, and I say upload a profile pic, and we'll change this from long text to upload image. And now I have access to my, the actual image. And I can also make another input. We can call this the remix description. And I can say, what would you like to change about this image? Right, so we have the remix description. Now what we can do is there's a couple of settings here. We can include our remix description as our prompt. So here's my remix description. And we can also add a reference image. See how it says source image here at underneath the model settings? And I'm just using those variables that we created, my pick and remix description. So we'll add my pick. So now we're calling that variable both here and there. And now when I run this, let's change this from workbench to on demand. We can publish this. We can preview this and just run it in a draft mode, by the way, where we can upload a profile pic. So let's see if I can find my picture. Should be in here. There we go. There's my picture, and I can say, make it look like The Simpsons. Now it's going to go through, it's going to take that image prompt, it's going to take my reference image, and it will generate another image for me. So let's see, there we go. Made it look like The Simpsons. Awesome. And so we can get these like very useful, unique tools to allow us to generate this media very easily. We can also, whoops, let me go back here. Now think about that for a second. Let's say that we had, let's go back to our blog post generator that we made. Let me go back here, and we'll go to my drafts. And I think, where was my blog post generator? Well, it doesn't matter. We'll delete this and delete these. We can right click on stuff to delete it. So if we added another user input and we said we had our topic and we said, what do you want to write about? We can then generate text and generate an image and output all of that together. So I can say, I can have a generate text block, and I'm going to say, I'm going to include my topic in here. Oops, topic and topic. And then I can say, write a detailed log post about, whoops, nope, not that. We need to use the tag. There we go, topic. Reply with the blog post and nothing else. And then we can save this to a variable. And we don't even have to prompt the AI image model. We can get an AI to write a prompt for us, right? So here, by the way, you can rename blocks very easily. So this one's going to be called generate blog post. I'm going to add another generate text block, and I'll right click on it and rename it. And I'm going to say generate image prompt. And I can take the output of this, which we called post, and I'm going to call this, blog text. Again, I put these in these labels here with the opening, closing, and inside we're going to put the post, and that's our context. And then the next step is to say, okay, based on blog text, write an AI image prompt that can be used to prompt an AI image model, right? And we'll say reply only with the AI image prompt. This will be used to prompt the AI image model in the next step. Okay. And we don't need to display it. We save it again. We call this image prompt. We can call these variables whatever we want. They all get saved, and then we can recall them anywhere. We can recall them as many times as we want in the workflow as well. There's no limit to how many times you can recall that variable that you create. And so instead of this description, we have our new image prompt. And we can also put it all together. We have this display content block like we saw before, and this supports a formatting language called Markdown. Markdown is super easy to understand. It's basically like, it's just text formatting. So it's like if I typed in, hello here, and I change this from normal text, plain text, to header, the text is bigger, it's bolder. You know, if we go heading 2, okay, now it's bold, but it's a little smaller. And Markdown works in the same way, but it's basically like shorthand for this kind of stuff. So you can see it says, okay, you want headings, you use a hashtag for H1, 2 for H2. Here's how you bold text. Here's how you italicize text. And then it also allows us to display images. So what I can do inside of my display content block is I can display my image at the very top of my blog post. So there we go. I'm going to copy this, and inside I'm going to paste it. There we go. And then it just wants the image URL. Well, the image URL is here. We can save that image to a variable that we call blog image, right? So all this feeds into the next step. Sorry, I'm bouncing back and forth a bit, but to kind of recap what's happening here, we have a user input where we generate a topic. We generate a blog post about that topic. We then feed that output into another call to an AI model that takes the blog text and comes up with an image. We then generate the image, and then here we're kind of pasting it all together. So we need to, use these double curly braces and bring in that image. We're going to display the image here. And this is blog image. That's just a label here. And then underneath, we can include the actual blog text, the post, right? So this is a way, so when we preview this, here's what happens, right? We open up the agent. We want to write about race cars. It's going to generate a blog post for us. So it's writing all of that content right now. It's generating the image prompt. It's now generating the actual image. And you might be wondering, okay, how can we actually read what it's outputting before it goes to the next step? So here's our image of race cars, right? That gets put at the very top of our blog post. This is super basic, quick. We can style this however we want. And now we have our blog post underneath, right? And we can, in our image settings, determine whether it's landscape or square or whatever we want it to be. And then, so then we can take this and you can even share the output. So if I click on share, now we have this like shareable asset that's basically a PDF that we can now share with our, friends, coworkers, relatives, whoever we want. So it's super cool. So you have the ability to generate images. You can do the same thing with videos. But the other cool part about the AI agent, like the MindStudio IDE, is that you can actually see what's happening under the hood at every step of the way. So as you're building, so we made some more complex workflow, and I'm kind of freestyling at this point because we answered some questions. But you can see everything that's happening using this thing called the debugger. And the debugger is going to show you what happens at each step, line by line. It logs everything that happens in that run. And it logs it in the same order as it is executed in the workflow. So you can see here, run started. That corresponds to our start block. We have the next step, user input. Okay, that's easy. Generate blog post. Okay, we know what step that is. And you can see this is the message that we typed in. And this is what gets resolved once the variable itself is replaced. So now we send this final message. Here's the topic, write a detailed post about race cars, right? And then we can see the result. This is what it generated. This is all of the text that it generated. And then we can see, this is what is input into to generate the image prompt. And then this is what was sent as the image prompt. So we can see the full image prompt here. This is what was typed into the image model. And there's the image, and here's all of it together. And on top of that, we get information about each step in the run, meaning we know how much each step cost, right? Generating this image cost about 3 cents, about 4 cents. generating the text cost us a fraction of a penny, right? Super cheap to generate the text. Generating images and videos a little more expensive. We get a final total of all of the billing events associated with this AI agent so that at any moment you know what is costing the most. You can optimize for cost, you can optimize for speed, you can see how long each step takes or how long the whole execution of the workflow takes, and make changes on the fly as you're analyzing these logs here. This debugger is super, super valuable. And when you get stuck and you're like, oh, I see something, but I don't know what's happening. So for example, let's say I forgot to put this in, right? And we ran it and we go in the debugger. Actually, let's go ahead and run this one time. We'll open up the draft agent, and this is going to fail, right? What do you want to write about? Dogs. It's going to generate the blog post. It's going to generate the image prompt. And when it gets to the generate image step, it's going to say, uh-oh, something went wrong. Now we can see the error message here, but we can also go to the debugger, figure out what's happening, right? Generate image. And let's say we get stuck. We don't know what's happening. We have AI tools built into the platform to help you build as you go. There's this button here that says generate insights here at the top right. If I click on that, it's going to analyze these logs for us. So we don't have to necessarily make sense of it all. Even though it's good practice to understand what's happening line by line, we have an AI agent that we've built into the platform that actually does this for you and can help you understand what's wrong and how to fix it, right? So this debugger is awesome. It's amazing. There's so much information that you get so that everything that you make is not a black box, right? And that's what's so valuable and powerful about this. So here's the workflow run analysis. And here are the insights, error details, empty prompt field. Even though you successfully generated an image prompt in the previous step, the prompt field in the generate image block is empty. Oh, okay, great. Generate image block is empty. Oh, whoops. Okay, I have to put in the image prompt here. Great, now this is fixed. Perfect. Now I can publish it, run my workflow again. It's awesome. There are also ways for you to vibe code custom interfaces. So let's say to uh, you don't want to have just this like stale, boring, sterile interface here, this random interface here. You can actually go down and go to custom on this interface section, and we'll get a vibe coding interface here where we can just tell it what we want it to look like. So I can say make it look like uh, a website on Zillow. I don't know if it knows about Zillow, but it's going to try its best to make it look like a Zillow website. And what's happening here, just like everybody that's vibe coded before, this is the same exact process. You prompt it, it's going to generate some code for you, and it's going to install any packages it needs in order to make the thing that you're asking for. And after a couple of seconds, we'll be able to see that preview on the right-hand side. So there, what should we write about? This is a completely custom interface. I'm like, that's okay. We'll say this looks ugly. Make it look like Windows 95 instead. Okay, it's going to take that design direction and it's going to make something that looks like Windows 95. And you can choose the model that is actually generating the code. So for example, so there's their Windows 95 input, right? Super styled. You can choose the model that you'd like to generate the code by clicking on Gemini 2.5 Flash, like the model name, and then you get access to any model that can perform here. So there we go. Claude 4.5 Sonnet's now generating stuff for us. So there's a lot of cool features. The whole point of me going through all of this and basically speed running all these features is to say that there's a lot you can do with this platform. You can start off small, start building these browser extension agents. These one block agent patterns, super easy, already unlocks hundreds and hundreds of use cases for you. Start learning about new blocks, adding those blocks into your repertoire, playing around with things. You're going to get new ideas. You can join our Slack community. Our Slack communities where a ton of AI builders exist and hang out and post their learnings and connect with each other, form teams. We have access to, we have other workshops that we do. There's a bunch of opportunities for you to keep learning with us. There's our pre-recorded workshops. There's MindStudio University. We host several different boot camps. So if you're interested in continuing to learn about MindStudio, learning the ins and outs of AI agents from myself directly, from Dimitri, our CEO, we teach these boot camps. We have a 1-day boot camp coming up. We have a 2-day boot camp coming up. And those are full day sessions where we will take you through building your very first agents like we did today, all the way through to creating, complex agents that loop through lists that can create these, complex research reports. And it's actually a really fun time. A lot of folks go through these additional boot camps, and they learn so much. We have a bunch of people who have gone through the boot camps. Is there anyone from a boot camp? Oh, sorry, Josh, you have something to add as well?
Yeah, I figured this is the perfect timing to announce the small teasers that we've been doing prior to this call. So basically, for anyone who's in this call right now or who have registered for this 2-hour workshop, we're offering a week-long deal where for any boot camp that's on our Luma or in our upcoming live training, for any boot camp until January 23rd, you can get 50% off, plus you can bring a friend
Oh,
for
sick.
free. Yeah. So bring a friend, learn together, and everything that Luis has showed times 100. So yeah, more information will be sent out in an email after this workshop.
Nice. That's awesome. I did not know about that. So cool, yeah, even better. If you decide to join up in a boot camp, you can get a 50% discount, which is amazing. But yeah, we kind of go through everything, and really you can learn all this by yourself. Like you don't have to go to a boot camp in order to learn MindStudio, right? We have a bunch of these resources available for you for free. But if you're someone who just wants to get up and running extremely quickly, extremely efficiently, we can condense all that learning into like 1 or 2 days. And by that point, you're going to be dangerous. You know, you're going to be dreaming about AI agents. There are people that come out of these boot camps that they are up all night because they just have ideas. And that's the whole point. We foster an environment where there's no gatekeeping. People come in as they are at whatever level they are, and we meet you where you're at and make sure that you're learning at every step of the way. Is there anybody from a boot camp that, has a couple words or anything they'd like to say about your experience? If you want to chat about it, totally cool. Um, no pressure. I
Hey,
know that
Luis.
people. Oh,
Yes.
hi.
Hi, guys. This is Elsa, and I was part of the first cohort. And if anybody here is not a developer, had no previous information, this is your chance, because if you know A8N or any of those other ones, you do need to know a little bit. I know because I went there. This is not that case. And the second thing is this is model agnostic, which means you get every single thing that is out there in one place. So it is phenomenal in that sense. Every time that there's something out new, you see it on LinkedIn that they say, oh, hey, this is new out there. You're not paying for it. Think about that. You're not paying for an additional thing. And the most important thing is the value that you're going to have in your organization, you cannot count that in. So if you're going to make an investment in yourself this year, this is it. And the thing that I think is going to make yourself explode is the community. You're going to find the most incredible people that are going to help you go through this. So trust me in this thing. write my name down, because come December 31st, you're going to find me on LinkedIn and say, thank you, woman, because you changed my life. Believe me, you're going to find me and you're going to thank me.
Awesome. Thank you, Elsa. Yeah, look, there's a bunch of people that uh, go through this boot camp, and we don't just teach you the AI agent building skills. We teach you how to become a leader in the space, right? We teach you about making yourself known as an AI expert, how to get attention on LinkedIn. Many people go through our boot camp, and we help you with ways to become seen, get job offers, get speaking opportunities, and that's happened to several people who have gone through our boot camp with much success. So yeah, it's awesome. And again, look, if it's not for you, it's not for you. You wanna build on by yourself and learn how to do it. Watching the free videos, you have all the information. Like, it's again, there's no gatekeeping here. But either way, you should join our community, because there's a bunch of people in there that are constantly building and innovating and discovering new stuff. And it's a really good way to like network with a bunch of folks that are all actively building AI agents and looking for the best techniques. It's really rare. Like, this community is I've built a couple of different communities in the past, and this one is by far like the most interesting. It's filled with the kindest people that I've been fortunate enough to encounter. Like, everyone's just super stellar and friendly, and just all here in the spirit of like learning and all coming up together, which is awesome. So yeah. Anyway, that's all I really have for folks. Really want to thank you for joining. If you might receive a message at the end of this after the webinar, just asking you about any feedback that you have. If you do have any feedback, I always am looking to make these things better. So feel free to fill that form out. And if you also learn something valuable, give us a shout out on LinkedIn. Like, we love hearing from you guys, whether that feedback is public or private. Just let us know how we did. Share this with a friend, because we want to spread the word, spread the MindStudio love, teach more people how to build AI agents, because we're at the precipice of a new way to work. So yeah, thank you so much, and have a great rest of your day. Bye, everyone.